It's your man, 100 Grand Ross with The Rock Never Stops. Today, we are continuing our conversation talking about Ausar Thompson and where we think he is going to rank by the end of this upcoming season. Now, this is our time to throw in our projections. Last episode, yesterday morning, we were able to talk about where we think he starts off at the beginning of this season. And I think we concluded roughly collectively, which is a part of what this live is. It's an interactive live. And so we were able to land on he's probably ranked about 21st in the NBA, right? Because I do want to respect people who have had a larger body of work, who have contributed over the course of seasons, not just like spurts and flashes, right? So that's why guys like Brandon Miller were a little bit further down. Um, and they have to continue to prove themselves, even though we've seen flashes and they come in with a lot of fanfare, right? But this is our opportunity to project. This is the fun part. This is where we say like, "Yo, I see this in him. I see that. I think he's gonna do all these things, and we're gonna talk about it here." All right. At the end of this live, we are going to come up with a ranking of where we think Asar Thompson lands. Now, this is also a part of a series. We were going through the Detroit Pistons Big Four, and the Big Four, I keep saying, is not a hierarchical one, right? I think many times we like to think of teams in terms of hierarchy. Garbage day. We like to think of teams as hierarchy, but the reality is you don't win by yourself. You don't win by yourself. By yourself. If it's this hierarchy, one guy is the guy and everyone else just follows them, that is a piss poor evaluation of leadership and how team construction matters in order to allow a team to win. Keep in mind, Michael Jordan, when he was by himself, was not winning in the playoffs. Barely getting into the playoffs, getting swept, getting ran out. He couldn't do nothing with that team. Kind of reminds me of like when Kobe was with the Lakers and he had Kwame Brown and Smush Parker and he had a bunch of young, talented dudes who just couldn't hold water for him. And the reality was he put up great numbers, but he couldn't win. He couldn't get to that championship. And then when Jordan got Scottie Pippen, he got Horace Grant, he had Bill Cartwright, he had what was his name? John Paxson. Almost said Mark Price. He had John Paxson, right? He started getting a team, a talented team, an extremely talented team, right? Horace Grant would go on to continue winning with the Orlando Magic, Los Angeles Lakers. Uh, Scottie Pippen would go on to win with the Houston Rockets. Sorry, not the Houston Rockets, the Portland Trailblazers, right? Even on the Bulls without him, right? Like he had talent. So this is not to look at the Detroit Pistons big four in terms of a hierarchy. Like this guy's on top and this guy's beneath him and he's beneath and so on and so forth. All four of these dudes are imperative for the Detroit Pistons to step into a championship window. Each of them has to fully actualize their potential. Each of them has to become everything that they have the ability to be. Just about. They have to take those steps. And if Ron Holland is any uh, kind of litmus test of the development that's taking place in Detroit, right? We should all be extremely optimistic. Now, I know some of y'all have also recommended that they might have a big five with Ron Holland, and they just roll out a lineup of Cade, Ivy, Asar, Ron Holland, and Jalen Durant. That could be one of the most talented starting fives in the NBA, and I totally agree. But we're going to leave Ron Holland to later. I don't want to put too much pressure on him, and he's only had a rookie year. He's had flashes, but we're gonna take our time with that projection. Today, we're starting with Asar Thompson, right? These are the Pistons Avengers. Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, Hulk. All of them bad dudes in their own right, right? We got Cade. We've got Ivy. We've got Asar. We've got Durant. So far, we've covered Ivy. Halfway, we've covered Asar Thompson. Today, we're diving in on where we think Asar Thompson is going to rank by the end of this season. All right? All right, here we go. Here we go. Now, I want y'all to think about this. There are some guys that are going to take big steps forward. There's some guys who might end up taking steps back. But I first want to start talking about what step forward do we think Asar Thompson takes this year? This year. Okay. I'm going to go over some stat lines when Asar Thompson has had, pull it up here. Let me see. Asar Thompson, 22 years old, 2 seasons. Let me see if I can find a game log. Let me see. Totals. Actually, I need to go to ESPN. ESPN. Asar Thompson. What I want to look at is what Asar Thompson looked like when he got 25 to 30 minutes a game. That to me is one of the most clear predictors of what we are going to continue to see from Asar Thompson. What he looked like when he got 25 to 30 minutes a game, which I think for a lot of us is going to be kind of a shock to realize he really wasn't getting that many minutes. He really wasn't last season. And I think that that's one of the biggest adjustments that we're going to have to take a look at is this guy was not playing. He was not getting burned. Wasn't seeing the court. Now, I was a proponent probably from January on where I was like, this dude not only needs to play, but he's an essential part of what this team is doing. If he's not on the court, this team is not going to be effective and they're not going to be competitive. And that was because I saw the defense that they were lacking, the defense that at times looked absolutely horrendous. Jalen Duren admitted first half of the season he was not locked in. He was not. He was worried about referee calls. He was kind of all over the place, not focused, and he had to get locked in. But I also suggested that Asar Thompson was a big part of that. Jalen Duren was never someone who was going to be quick enough or have the defensive IQ. Now, I want to stipulate there's a big difference between basketball IQ, big difference between having a game IQ versus having a specific area of IQ in the game, right? Like there's guys who are master rebounders because their skill development and their ability to rebound is just extremely high, right? Marcus Camby used to study angles coming off of the glass, the rim, and he was just an incredible talent at rebounding, right? Some guys study assists, playmaking, the Steve Nashes, Jason Kidds, they know all the angles. It's not just random. These guys study this stuff, right? They fall in love with learning this stuff. And then you have guys who study defense. These are the Draymond Greens. These are the Dennis Rodmans. These are the guys who are absolutely phenomenal. They absolutely dominate on the defensive end. Jalen Duren was never that guy. But he started giving the effort. But what unlocked him, and this was my synopsis, what unlocked him was Asar Thompson playing alongside of him because he was able to contain and cause enough disruption on the perimeter that bought Jalen Duren that extra second to process what was taking place, remember the scheme, and make the correct move. True that, and some kind of natural knack. I don't think it's a natural knack, and I'll explain this. There is potentially a decision that's made early on that's embedded in someone that says, "Hey, I enjoy this. This is what I want to do. This is what I like. This is what I think is uh, exciting for me." So, for example, when I was a kid, I followed Kobe Bryant. I had the fro, everything like Kobe. Right? I was Kobe 8. That was me. Kobe 8. Just a competitor. Right? But I loved being able to lock down my guy on defense because I remember hearing Kobe Bryant talk about that. That if I score and you score, it's even, right? I'm not better because I scored and you scored. So it is what it is. But if I score and I keep you from scoring. And then I come back and I score again and I keep you from scoring. Now all of a sudden I'm outpacing you. I'm proving to myself that I'm a better player. Here's the thing. Some guys don't do that. Some guys score and they let you score, right? These are the Gilbert Arenases. These are the Stephen Curry, even though he's gotten better over time. These are the sometimes Bradley Beals and James Hardens. You can get the better of them. And sometimes, depending upon how your team is executing, you might outscore them. Most of the time, you don't. And that's why they can lay back on those laurels and be like, hey, I'm the best player. But if you're giving up almost as many points as you're getting, you're really not necessarily helping your team all that much. Shout out Cam Thomas. And so defense is a big thing. That was something that I, as a young athlete, bought into. So it wasn't like a knack. It wasn't this natural instinct. It was something that I heard someone talk about explaining to me, and I gravitated towards it. What's good, Sandro? Thanks, man. We're talking about Asar Thompson, ranking him where we think he's going to land by the end of this season. And what I was talking about was Asar Thompson, his biggest contribution many times came on the defensive end. But more so than that, when he was able to play 25 plus minutes a game, or at least 20 minutes a game, he was able to contribute in a way that was able to unlock his team. And one of the guys that he unlocked was Jalen Duren because of his ability to contain on the perimeter, his ability to take on the other team's best scorer, the biggest perimeter threat, whether it was Jalen Brunson, SGA, whether it was Scotty Barnes, whether it was Jason Tatum, whether it was Luka Doncic, right? It didn't matter who it was. If Asar Thompson was on them, we could be confident he can contain them, and we don't have to send help so readily. We don't allow that guy to put us into rotation to where now we're scrambling to get to the second pass, third pass because we had to double team. And that's what the Detroit Pistons had to do most of the year, most of the year until Asar Thompson came back. True, I was never fast as a kid, but I became the biggest AI fan and studied all the aspects of his first step. I got in the gym, did Olympic lifts. Yep. I'm a speed demon on the court. True. It's what you gravitate towards. It's what you adopt. And you know what? When it came to Asar Thompson, man, I'm gonna be honest. I think there's something special that took place between him and his brother. When you have brothers, when you have, let's just say, guys that are really close and they're growing up together in proximity. This is why I think uh, young athletes need to get back into playing outside, if I'm honest. Because when you run into neighborhood kids and you get used to competing against them, you guys tend to get into these like bragging rights. And, like if you bested, your friend and, on the court the next day at school, you kind of like, hey, how'd you like that? You was like trash talking a little bit. And that's a part of the fun, right? But it also made you competitive. It also made you want to do better. Right. I remember when I was in high school, there was this upperclassman by the name of Donald Lacey. Man, he used to trash talk me I was a freshman on the far soft team, and he was starting, getting all these minutes. And he used to trash talk all the time. I was shorter, much shorter, had a leg growth spurt. He was taller. He got all the playing time, took all the shots. But I was like, man, this dude ain't that good. So I practiced all summer because I wanted to beat him. And then when I would see him on the courts, I would go at his neck. It made me better. Some of these young athletes don't have that drive. And it shows, unfortunately. All that's to say. Something between Asara Thompson and Amen Thompson clicked within their competition within one another, within their brotherhood. And I think that their competition is now internal. It's internal. It's I'm trying to compete because I know this guy next to me, he's a dog. I don't know if you've seen that soccer. I think it's like an Adidas commercial, something like that. It's like two. I think they look like twin sisters. they're light skinned. I think they got like curly hair, something like that, locks or something like that. And then they're watching a soccer game and then they see them do something. And the next, they go, oh, it's like an Amazon thing. They like purchase a new pair of cleats or they purchase one of those running bags to improve speed, right? And they're doing all these new things, trying to get better than one another. Those two have been competing with one another for so long. A lot of these other people don't matter. And when you have a young player who can have that internal drive to compete, it allows you to take big steps faster and faster and faster. Ausar Thompson has that internal drive. Jaden Ivey has that internal drive. Cade Cunningham has had that internal drive because remember his older brother, who's taller, um, upperclassman, who's known for his basketball exploits. A lot of people say he probably could have went to the league, but that's not necessarily what he wanted to do. Having that marker where this is why I'm trying to get better, that creates that internal drive, that's what allows people to be better, to push themselves many times. I think it's also infected Jalen Duren. He's been dominant for so long, then he gets to the Pistons, he kind of doing his thing. All right, he's chilling. Then all of a sudden, he gets there last year and he's like, oh shoot, Cade and Ivy are outpacing me. Ausar Thompson is outpacing me. Folks is talking about trades, and all of a sudden he's like, oh shoot, I gotta keep up. And that's a good thing to have on a team. It's almost like that accountability factor. Now, all that's to say, let's take a look at Ausar Thompson. How did he do when he got extended minutes? Now I'm looking at his game log. Okay, these are splits right here. Let me look at some of these splits. In the month of April, he got 28.3 minutes per game. This is when we began to see. Why is it not loading? ESPN, you got to step up your app, man. Oh man, this is ugly. Ooh, this ESPN app is ugly. Okay, we're not gonna use this. I ain't gonna deal with this. Um, yeah, not at all. Not at all. Nope. We're gonna go back to hoops reference. Um, fact. Go like this. So I'm not gonna deal with that. Wow, that's slowing down my whole phone. Oh, this is crazy. All right. I'm just gonna chill on this thing. Wow, that's crazy. All right. ESPN. All right. I'm trying to get into my phone. All right. Here we go. All right. Let's try this again. We're gonna leave ESPN alone. Go to Ausar Thompson. All right, we're just gonna look at this. Sorry, y'all. I'm curious. What do y'all utilize to look at statistical analysis? I don't know if y'all do. I usually do it the slow way, do like a hoops reference. But what do y'all use? I'm thinking about trying to get one of those websites where they like you could break down parts of their games, like finishes at the rim, jump shots beyond 10 feet, stuff like that. Curious what y'all use. Let's just look at what he did in the playoffs. What do you do in the playoffs? Because I know that's when he got major minutes for sure. Yeah, 22, 20, got into foul trouble, 18 foul trouble. Then he got 21. Then he had 28. Let's look at when he got to 28 minutes in the playoffs. What did he do? It was in a win against the Knicks. Game 5. Game 5. Let me see. What do you use? EPM. Okay, that's what's up. I'm looking at game 5, which is probably his best game. He shoots 8 of 10, misses only 3. Let's see. 7 rebounds, 2 blocks, had 22 points. That's what's up. Plus 9. Okay. Then game 6, he had 17 points, 6 rebounds, 1 assist, 3 steals, 2 blocks. Okay. What's funny is when you look at the playoffs, and this is something I always kind of keep in mind. Playoffs really tell you a lot about a player. They tell you a lot about a player. This is why I never liked Miles Turner. When everybody was talking about like we need to go get Miles Turner, I was like, nah, bro. There's some things that I'm noticing about Miles Turner that I'm not really a fan of. Um, that he shrinks in the playoffs. He shrinks. You look at his regular season stats, and then you look at his playoff stats, and he takes a step down. When guys shrink in the playoffs, it tells you that you need to contextualize his production or his productivity or how his talent translates. When you're in the flow of the regular season, these guys are able to kind of pick teams apart because not everyone's able to game plan. Not everyone's able to be as prepared. Not everyone is able to um, be as locked in. I mean, you got back-to-back games. You know, you're playing 3 games in 5 days type of deal. You've been on a road trip. This is like your 5th or 6th game on the road, flying from one place to the next. You were just in Memphis. Before that, you were in Houston, and now you're in Indiana, right? Crazy road trip, and then you got 2 more spots, right? So you're not always as locked in. And sometimes you could take advantage just within the flow that guys aren't able to give maximal effort. But in the playoffs, everyone's reading your scouting report. The coach and the defense has you prepared to push guys into their weaknesses, force you to do what you don't want to do, and then they begin to be able to exploit you. And you have to elevate your game. You have to have had your own homework done within you to know what are my secondary moves. What are the things that I do outside of just this? Yes, I can do these things to get to my best shots, my best opportunities to succeed. But then what do I do as a counter when you take that away? Right? I'm right-handed. What happens when you take away my right hand? Got to be just as strong with my left. Miles Turner was a player that was like, once you do that, once you take away his strengths, taking away that outside three, force him to put it on the ground, cut him off at the rim, he becomes a bit one dimensional. Ausar Thompson in the playoffs, if I'm honest with you, was never one dimensional. He was always great on defense. He could always rebound. He could always dominate from that dunker spot, playing around the rim. He was always an extreme threat, playing alongside Duran in the front court. He always had the ability to get out in transition. He always had the skill to be able to contribute, whether it was playmaking for others, whether it was moving without the ball. And that's one of the reasons why I've been such a big fan of his, because most players are very one dimensional. Most players don't have this ability to contribute in a myriad of ways. Most of the time, they're one trick ponies, maybe two, maybe two. And that's where Asara Thompson comes in for me. Versatility. Facts. Asara Thompson is someone to me that, as I project him going into next season, is a player that is going to be able to continue to develop, going to be able to continue to grow his game without necessarily needing to focus on just one area. You see, I think a lot of people have become so infatuated with the jump shot, we forget that there's other things, right? We looked at Stephen Curry's threes, and we go, "Wow, it's taking the league by storm." But you didn't realize that Draymond Green's ability to play make for him and facilitate for him directly led to his efficiency from three. And Klay Thompson's balance on the other side of the court, not just defensively holding down the other team's best player, so you're not just trading baskets, but also being able to spread the defense out by being a high level 3-point shooter. That actually these guys are all feeding off each other. Andrew Bogut's ability to control the boards and defend the rim. Andre Iguodala's facilitating and playmaking ability and defensive acumen. All these things unlocked and allowed them to win those early championships. Right? Andrew Wiggins. It takes a team. And it takes guys who do different things. Asar Thompson is one of those guys who does different things. He's not a one-trick pony. And so what I look at in terms of his progress and where he's going to end up at, it's going to start with his timing. And I've said this over and over. Timing and Sean Livingston's defense. Facts. Facts, Eric. Timing is everything. Timing is everything. When do you assert yourself? How do you assert yourself when? What is my role in this moment? What do I do to best contribute to helping my team win in this situation against this type of a team, in this type of a competitive space? Right? I was somebody who said Asar Thompson is a clear point forward. To me, he was a clear point forward. Many times he was not used as a point forward. I said Asar Thompson is great playing off the ball, but he's also great playing on the ball because of his ability to make really good decisions, see over the defense, be an effective passer, and get downhill. He's able to take pressure off of Cade Cunningham. He's able to ensure that Cade doesn't have to utilize as much energy being pressed the full length of the court like Andrew Nimhard used to do and other teams used to do with him, right? The Knicks with Deuce McBride, and they would wear him out. And by the time he got to the fourth quarter, his legs were gone. I said Asar Thompson playing on the ball helps out tremendously. I said Asar Thompson being able to close out games allows them to make plays defensively that takes the pressure off of Cade having to carry such a load offensively to close out games. Now, JB Bickerstaff went in another direction, and I get it. Asar Thompson was still getting his feet wet. When he came in the season, JB Bickerstaff was clear. He said, "Hey, I don't really have expectations for him. You know, I think that this guy, he's talented, but we got to see who he is. We haven't had him for a training camp. We didn't have him for workouts before training camp. Our coaches weren't working with him, right? I have a new staff, right? This is a new team. This is a new system. He didn't have expectations. He really didn't have him penciled in as this is what I can expect within my system. And so many times he closed out games with Malik Beasley and Tim Hardaway Jr. alongside Cade Cunningham. And it was to the detriment of the team. I completely I understand why he did it, but their porous defense was absolutely it undermined them so many games trying to close out. And as they continue to play that way, I continue to see this team is going to have a hard time winning close games, especially against another team who can execute because of where this team was at. They don't execute like perennial playoff teams. They don't have the continuity of teams who have been in the playoffs year after year. They have talent, but it's about far more than just talent. You have to be able to play together. You have to know expectations and roles in that particular moment, in that particular space. 2 minutes to go. Who's getting the ball where? What's the action that you're going to? And so with Asar Thompson there, what it took the pressure off of is the ability to execute in that moment. That now Asar Thompson can do things like get a deflection on defense. Now you're out in transition. You're getting a layup instead of having to execute in the half court. Yeah, you're right. You have to know your role. Um, in the NBA to go far, not everyone can be LeBron James. Very true. But the reality is every team is going to have their own star. Every team's going to have their own star. Shasha, after you get dressed, can you stir the oatmeal? It's on low. Okay. Yeah. All right. But not only is it every team's going to have a different number one guy, and everyone has to learn how to play around that guy because that's what allows that team to be maximally effective. That's what the Pistons were trying to figure out last year. Who was going to be who in what type of situation? Now they know. We know Asar Thompson is a part of that closing lineup. We know Jaden Ivey can hit last second shots. We know that Jalen Duren can dominate on the interior. We now have a better idea of how this team can maximize its talent to be able to close out games. The number one thing that I think Asar Thompson is going to improve is his timing. To know exactly what's being asked of him throughout the course of a game. If Cade Cunningham is struggling to get himself going, you might see Asar move on the ball so that Cade can be off the ball. So he can catch the ball in his spots instead of trying to dribble into his spots after setting up the offense. You might see Jaden Ivey with the ball, running action with Jalen Duren, sucking in the defense, and looking to find Cade Cunningham on the weak side. Right? These are things that you can now factor in and count on. Right? You can now have someone like a Duncan Robinson in a closing lineup, knowing that you got that sniper that's going to have gravity and pull the defense away. Within that, within that known expectation, I think you see Ausar Thompson look that much better and that much more consistent in terms of applying his skill to best help this team win. And this is something that I've talked about many times. Yeah, secondary ball handler is super useful, super useful. Ausar Thompson has such a wide range of skill that I think at times he didn't always know what to do when because he was just kind of acclimating himself to the team. Sometimes he got more minutes, sometimes he got less minutes. Sometimes he was able to run the point, sometimes he was completely off the ball in a corner. Sometimes he was moving off the ball, being found off of other guys' drives to the rim, and sometimes he was in the dunker spot. As a result, he was very inconsistent, but he continued to show flashes. He looked great in the dunker spot, especially running that high low between Jalen Duren. He also looked really good as the roll man, running pick and roll with Cade Cunningham. He also looked really good as the facilitator in pick and roll with Jalen Duren. He actually looked really good doing what they call snatch and go, grabbing a rebound, getting up the court, and getting the offense started. There are so many aspects of his game. I think in this new season, he has the timing to know exactly what he's looking for when he's getting downhill attacking the rim. As we saw against the Chicago Bulls, started off extremely aggressive. First drive, hard to the right, going to the middle of the paint, spins off of Modest Buzelis, goes up on the left side, comes under, finishes around Nikola Vucevic. Amazing play. And we were like, whoa. It was another 3, 4, 5 games before we saw that again. I think what we see this year is we see consistently Ausar Thompson gets a rebound, just take off. Cade Ivey, just go. Duren, go. He's got it. I think when Cade or Ivy get a rebound, they're immediately looking up the court for Ausar Thompson to utilize his speed, Ivy's speed, and they're just looking to get the ball up the court. I think they're going to consistently look that when Ausar Thompson gets up the court and he doesn't get the ball, that he's probably going to be posting up a mismatch. He's got a Jalen Brunson on him, a Kevin Porter on him. He's got guys that are not known for defense, who are smaller, lighter, and he can post them up and get the ball early, along with someone like Duren who could do the same if he's leading in transition. And so I think the timing is going to be the biggest difference. The second thing, I think that's going to be the biggest difference maker. He's just going to get more minutes. The fact that he only got 28 minutes a game in April was telling. I get it. He was coming back from blood clots. You want to let him get his legs under him slowly and steadily. But I think that Ausar Thompson was able to show more and do more when he had more time to do it. Now, I know he had to get his lungs, he had to get his cardio, get his legs under him, and that was a whole process. But at the same time, I think this season, he goes into games expecting those 30 minutes. And if I'm honest with you, Cade, Ivy, Ausar, Duren should all be getting at least 30 minutes a game. Sorry. Sorry. Let them get 30 minutes a game. 28 if one of the guys on the bench is balling out. Tobias Harris, he's probably going to be down to something around 22 minutes. I think he's the first guy to come out as a sub. I think then the next one is probably Jaden Ivey, just so you could stagger him and Cade, so you have a kind of a dominant on-ball guy and some versatility. And then maybe you have Karis LeVert and Ivy playing together in that stagger. Take out Tobias Harris, you bring in Duncan Robinson, so you have that shooting. Right, you take out Ivy, maybe you bring in Ron Holland, Marcus Sasser, right? And we may need to have a conversation about what the rotation is going to look like because I can completely see that. Right? Tobias comes out, Duncan Robin is in. Jaden Ivey comes out, Marcus Sasser is in. Point of attack. I don't think Dennis Jenkins gets minutes over Marcus Sasser. Remember, there's a big difference between when you're on the Summer League roster, that means you're still trying to prove yourself. When you're not on the Summer League roster, that means the coaching staff is, okay, we're good. We know who you are. We know who you are. I'll be honest with you. If the Detroit Pistons weren't sold on Marcus Sasser, they would have brought in another veteran guard. To be straight up, they would have brought in another veteran guard. They would have said, hey, we need someone else off the bench. I think they're sold on Marcus Sasser. So I think he's the one who comes in for Jaden Ivey. And then Karis LeVert comes in for Ausar Thompson. Sorry, Isaiah Stewart probably comes in for Duran at that point. Then you see Karis LeVert maybe come in for Ausar Thompson. Then you have Jaden Ivey come in for Cade Cunningham. And that's the rotation. That's the rotation. I think with Ausar Thompson, his improved timing, cardio, and consistency of minutes, you're going to see a stat line of anywhere between 14 to 16 points a game. Literally. Literally. Because of his versatility, he's going to get you 4 points a game just in transition. Get you another 2 to 4 posting up smaller guards. He'll get you another 2 to 4 attacking straight line drives, getting to the rim. Get you another 2 to 4 at the free throw line. Another 2 to 4 within the dunker spot. And then every once in a while, he'll hit a corner three, a trailing three. Right? That's anywhere between 14 to 18 points. Don't let him have a consistent mismatch in one of those specific areas. He might get 4 to 6 points there. Now you're looking at 20. Right? And that level of versatility, what that also does is it doesn't let the defense necessarily push you into something you don't want to be doing. It doesn't allow the defense to push you into weaknesses, let's say. Right? Now the defense can't just be like, all right, we're just going to force him to shoot. So he's like, fine, if you give me space, I'm just going to cut off the ball, cut behind you or right in front of you. And now I'm at the rim. I don't even have to dribble. I just catch and just elevate and dunk. Oh, he'll just sit in the corner. Nope. He's now ducking into that dunker spot. As soon as you take your eyes off him, Jalen Duren's finding him for the lob. Cater Ivy is dumping it off to him. Right? He's backdoor cutting you. Duren hits him with the backdoor bounce pass or lob. Right? You can't just lay off Ausar Thompson. Brian Williams. Ausar has the freakish talent like Rodman and Ben. They were all over the place on defense, but Ausar is a better scorer. I can't wait. Facts. 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 I'm curious, what do you guys think Ausar Thompson's stat line is going to be next season? What do you think his stat line is going to be next season? What do you think Asara Thompson's stat line is going to be? And I mean by the end of the season, April. What do you think he's going to be doing in April? Some of it might be due to need, right? Knock on wood, injuries happen. Um, Sometimes you're put into different roles, right? Kate or Ivy goes down for any type of a stretch, right? Hoping it doesn't happen. If it does, he might find himself more at the point and getting more assists. He might find himself playing on the interior more. Say if Harris goes down for any stretch, now he's getting more rebounds. Brian Williams got him at 14, 7, 6 assists, 3 steals, and a block. Ooh, I like that. I like that. I like that. I can see that. I can see that. Who else? What else you got? What do you think Asara Thompson's stat line is going to be by the end of next season? By the end. Yeah, Eric, I'm also excited to see a healthy Ivy. Yeah, he definitely took a step last season. I think he's gonna take another step this season. I think he's gonna get up to like 22 points per game. That's why I kind of have him 22, 5, and 4. Really good efficiency, close to 2 steals a game. Um, and he's gonna be dominant at times. He's gonna show he can take over games. I think that's what we see from Ivy. What do you think we see from Asar? Some of y'all, 3 steals is crazy though. Daniels did that last season. Yeah. I mean, if you looked at Asar, how many times did he just rip guys on ball? Just rip it out of their hands. Pick them, knock the ball away, get a steal. Fourth quarter, first quarter, didn't matter. If he's on ball, he's definitely a threat to take the ball out of your hands. All right. 16, 8, and 4 with 4 stocks. I could see that as well. I could see that as well. I think if he gets to 8 rebounds, it's because he's playing more on the interior. But I can completely see it. I can completely see it, especially when you look at if he's getting consistently 28 to 30 minutes a game, he's getting more offensive rebounds and more defensive rebounds. Right. So if I had to give him a stat line, I I would give him a range. I would give him a range. Shasha, can you check on oatmeal, please? Thank you. I would say he's scoring 14 to 16 points per game. He gets at least 6 rebounds per game. And he's somewhere around 4 assists per game. And in terms of steals and blocks, I'd say 4 stocks, right? That's the combination of steals and blocks. So probably whoever came up with that term was genius. Okay. Can you stir it? Thank you, kiddo. That's what I meant. But yes, 4 stocks per game. I think his ability to play on the ball, off the ball, help side shot blocker, um, weak side ball thief, right? Reading those passing lanes. I think he reads passing lanes better and better and better as the season goes on, and he's getting those consistent minutes, right? Because now the Detroit Pistons can scheme him in, right? Like now you can say, hey, if Asar is on the ball, this is how we want to defend that allows him to bottle up a ball handler that much more. Or if he's off the ball, how do we funnel guys into tough positions that creates blind spots that allows Ausar Thompson and even Jaden Ivey to jump those passing lanes, right? How do we slide our feet, just put our hands up, knowing that we got Duran and Ausar who can come for weak side shot blocks, along with Cade Cunningham, right? When you can scheme someone in, it allows you to maximize their potential on the court. And that was something I don't think JB was ever able to do, is really scheme Ausar Thompson in to the game strategy. I think we're going to see that in a major way. 28 to 30 minutes a game, consistent minutes, improved timing, knowing expectations, and how he's going to apply himself. I think all those things come together. And Ausar Thompson gives you 14 to 16 points per game, 6 to 8 rebounds, about 4 assists, if not a little bit more. but 4 assists and 4 stocks per game. That's what I got. But where does he rank by the end of the season? That's good. Okay. Where does he rank by the end of the season? Let's go back to our ranking. At number one, we had Luka Doncic. Two, we had Jalen Brown. Three, Kevin Durant. Four, Kawhi Leonard. Five, J Dub. Now, if you're wondering about some of my rankings, some of it I ranked based upon what they were able to do last season and their projected role. So, for example, I have Jalen Brown ranked higher than Kevin Durant because Jalen Brown is going to be his team's leader, number one scoring option. Kevin Durant is not. Is not. He's going to eat. He's going to score 26 points per game in his sleep. But he's playing off of Amin Thompson, Fred VanVleet. Those guys are going to be more of the engine, Alperen Şengün. He's just going to be able to score readily with those guys. He's going to do a lot for them, but it's a different role. Kawhi Leonard playing off of James Harden. Do you think the Thompson twins have a chance of winning the Defensive Player of the Year at any point in their careers? Yes. And if so, would it be because of their records or the stats or both? And can they get over Victor Wembanyama? You know what? I mean, those are all great questions. But I think that both of them will have an opportunity to because neither of them yet are asked to carry an offensive load. Neither of them are asked to carry an offensive load. And that many times is a huge predictor of someone's ability to get to that defensive player of the year because of the amount of energy that you put out on the defensive end. Victor Wembanyama, as his offensive load grows, I'm not saying he's not going to be able to play high level defense. I think he's going to get to that Tim Duncan, Hakeem Olajuwon. Sorry, Hakeem Olajuwon. That's how you pronounce it. Where he's able to dominate on both ends just to a high level, and it's going to be really almost impossible to not give him Defensive Player of the Year. However, sometimes voter fatigue happens, and that's where these other guys slide in. A Michael Jordan slides in amongst Akeem Olajuwon, right? Gary Payton slides in amongst the Dennis Rodmans and the Akeem Olajuwons and the Tim Duncans, right? The guys who are just always there at the top every single year. I think both will be able to do that. Amin Thompson and Ausar Thompson will both have an opportunity to, but also, well, I see both of them more than anything just becoming perennial first team all defensive players. You know, you got LeGuin's Dort, but I think both of them are more impactful defenders than Dort. Uh, Dyson Daniels is an incredible defender. I also think both those teams, because it's also about your collective talent around you. You can have a great defensive talent, but having other strong defenders around you and a defensive minded coach, and your team is bought into that, I think all those things play into your defensive statistics, on off numbers, and overall impact. Right? Ben Wallace next to Rasheed Wallace is an NBA champion. Ben Wallace by himself can be a defensive player of the year, but they're not getting over that hump. Right? So Ben Wallace by himself, great defender. May not be defensive player of the year. Ben Wallace with Tayshaun Prince on the perimeter, he can get to that defensive player of the year. All right. Let me see. Exactly. He can't win it every year. Facts. I don't know who's going to do it first, but I think both of them are going to be first team all defensive players and have a chance. They will be in the conversation for defensive player of the year. But let's go through the rest of this ranking. We have Luka at 1, Jalen Brown at 2, Durant at 3, Kawhi at 4, J Dub at 5. Look, I know that he was a champion. He had a great playoff series, great finals, but he's never been the number one option. So it's hard to put him above other guys who are the number one option. Then you got Franz Wagner. I think he takes a big jump this year. Playing next to Paolo Banchero, I think this team takes a jump. But I don't necessarily think this is going to correlate to more scoring by Franz Wagner. I think he's going to contribute more in other areas, especially with Desmond Bain. That's his main area of contribution is shooting. And then Paolo is still the closer. I still think that Franz eats, but I think he stays kind of where he was at last season, just more efficient. Jimmy Butler, Paul George, OG Anunoby. These guys are getting older. OG Anunoby has never been known for his health, and I could throw in Brandon Ingram as well at number 10. Uh, Jimmy, Paul, OG, Brandon tend to be injury prone, and there's a good chance that's where it ends up. Slovenians are gonna hunt you down if you say Brown been better than Luca. Oh, and we was talking about the finals. Well, I mean, let me put it this way. The proof is in the pudding. Jalen Brown locked up Luca in the NBA Finals, slowed him down drastically, had him in his own head, pouting on the court, and that was a huge reason why Jalen Brown was the NBA Finals MVP, and Luca went home empty. That's big. That is nothing to smirk at. He went toe to toe with Luca. He was the primary defender on Luca. It wasn't Tatum. Tatum was guarding PJ Washington. Right. And when you watch that series, Jalen Brown was probably the most effective scorer than Jason Tatum. Tatum is still good. He still played really well, contributed in a lot of ways. But I would say that there were times where the momentum needed to be shifted. There was times when there was like okay, we need a basket. Dallas just went on a run. Someone needs to stop this run. And that was Jalen Brown, not Tatum. Jalen Brown got downhill to the rim. Even I think Draymond Green said it. Jalen Brown's game translates more to the playoffs than Jason Tatum's because he goes north and south. And when you look at the level of defensive attentiveness, it's far harder to contain a guy who's going north and south than a guy who's going east and west, side to side. When you go side to side, you have help defenders. North and south, you're kind of there by yourself, hoping that you have a rim protector behind you. With Boston's ability to spread out a defensive center, or I'm sorry, a 3-point shooting center, right? Now there's nobody behind you. All right. Jalen Brown is very underrated. Very underrated. He just does his game is not aesthetically as pleasing, but he's effective. He's effective. All right, let's keep going. We got Denny Avdia at number 11, DeMar DeRozan at 12, Andrew Wiggins at 13, Jeremy Grant at 14, Jaden McDaniels at 15. I can see DeMar DeRozan, Andrew Wiggins taking steps back. I think they're over the hill athletically. I'm not saying they're not effective anymore, but they're not getting better, right? So what we saw last season is kind of like a benchmark and a projected. They're probably going to take a small step back. They're probably going to regress. Younger guys tend to continue to progress. Then we get to Trey Murphy III at 16. I think he's going to get better, but I don't think he's going to necessarily score more and do a whole lot more. You got Zion back. You got Jordan Poole. These guys are going to take shots, lots of shots. Trey Murphy's going to be that third option. I think he scores. I don't think he takes a huge jump. He's also injury prone. Dylan Brooks, stay about where he's at. Brandon Miller, I think he takes a big jump. He might end up in that top 10, depending upon how bought in he is to Charles Lee's defense. If he is bought into Charles Lee preaching defense, playing as a team, he has an opportunity to take a major leap by helping his team win. By helping his team win. Being the leader that they've lacked under the LaMelo Ball, Miles Bridges, I don't want to call it a regime, but their stretch. All right, that team's been very leaderless. Brandon Miller will have a chance to take a jump. When we come down here to DeAndre Hunter, Cameron Johnson, these guys are going to continue to be who they are. I don't see them necessarily taking a jump. Ausar Thompson at 21. I think by the end of the season, he gets into that top 10. Yeah, a lot of guys will take the ball out of his hands. Yes, I agree. Ausar Thompson, I think he gets into the top 10. I think you're looking at something like a Luka, Jalen Brown, Durant will still be up there, Kawhi, J-Dub, Franz, but it's the Jimmys, it's the Paul Georges, OG Anunobys, Brandon Ingrams who are going to drop down. The reason why I say this is because Jimmy injury prone. Yes, he'll have a bounce back year playing with Steph and Draymond, but it's going to be more congested. Ball's not going to be in his hands. I actually have LeBron at power forward. At power forward, not small forward. I have Luca at small forward, which is why I rank him at the top. I think Austin Reeves is the two, and I wouldn't be shocked if Marcus Smart is their starting point guard. We talked about that yesterday. I want to see a redefined Hornets that values defense. Well, I think that's what this draft was all about. This draft, Ryan Kalkbrenner, um, Khan Knuppel, who's the other guy? Was played for UConn. What's his name? Where's he at? Liam McNeely, right? These guys, Pat Connaughton, the Grant Williams, Josh Greens. These guys were brought in there to be hard nosed, blue collar, lunch pail guys. Or if I see the Hornets announcer in the playoffs, I'm gonna have happy tears in my eyes. Yeah, it's one of the more phenomenal announcers. It's just a shame that they haven't had a better organization. We all know what it takes to win, right? There's plenty of talented guys out there. Like if I'm Charlotte, you know who I go after? Quentin Grimes. Trade him for Josh Green, right? Trade him for Pat Connaughton, who's on an expiring deal, right? But I know that they value Con Knuppel, but I don't see Con Knuppel being able to defend well enough to play next to LaMelo Ball. I don't think he scores well enough to supplant Brandon Miller at the three. Right? I don't think Brandon Miller is big enough to be at the four. Unless they're thinking about putting Brandon Miller at the two and Con Knuppel at the three. And then you got what, Miles Bridges at the four. I mean, it's just this roster doesn't make a lot of sense. So kind of neither here nor there uh on the Charlotte Hornets until they put it together. I think Ausar Thompson gets into the top 10. I think he ends up as number 9 or 10. I think he leapfrogs guys like Jimmy Butler, Paul George. Paul George would have to have a resurgence. He'll have to find himself again in Philly, and that will take a dedicated Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey locked in. VJ Edgecombe has to have a strong year. He's gonna have to have a lot of things go right for him. Not saying he can't maintain that spot because he's very talented, and that team could be a winning team. But if the Detroit Pistons are a number 3 seed, and he's putting up that type of a stat line, it's going to be hard, especially when he's first team all defense. It's going to be extremely hard for uh, the league not to recognize him, not to be able to see what he does across the board as more valuable than what maybe one or two of these guys are doing in singular spaces. OG Anunoby, like I said, injury prone, great defense, but I think Ausar Thompson becomes better than him. Um, I can see Danny Avdia, if they win enough, getting close to that top 10. I can see Brandon Miller, if he buys in, getting close to that top 10. But I see Ausar Thompson and the record of the Detroit Pistons getting to that third or fourth seed. I see him getting the nod. And by the end of the season, Ausar Thompson is ranked in the top 10 small forwards. Now, when I'm done with this series, ranking the Pistons Big Four. I appreciate everybody who's been in this live. If you haven't already, smash the like button for me. It's a little thing, but it's a big thing for the channel. Really helps out a lot. Appreciate everybody in this community. I really do. Uh, I think by the end of this series, when we take where we think all four guys will rank at their respective positions at the end of the season, I think it will be a tremendous kind of feather in the Pistons cap to have four guys ranked in the top 50 players in the NBA. I think they could end up with four guys who are ranked. I appreciate you, Eric. Appreciate that. Who are ranked not only in the top 50. I wouldn't be shocked if there's four if all four of them are ranked in the top 30 or 40. Three of them ranked in the top 30, right? I think those things would be incredible. And that's when I think they step into the championship window in 2 years. That's when I think they're going to be able to compete with a full strength Boston Celtics, full strength Cleveland Cavaliers, full strength New York Knicks. And I mean playoff battles. I think they're going to be able to go 6, 7 games in the Eastern Conference Finals, maybe sneak through because they're healthier, right? They're going to be too complex for another team to figure out, too much athleticism and speed for a team to keep up. And they'll have a clear advantage over one of these other teams and impose their will. JB Bickerstaff, he has his guys bought in. Ron Holland is ascending, right? Karis LeVert and Duncan Robinson and these guys, Marcus Sasser, Isaiah Stewart, even Bobby Clinton stepping into his own 2 years from now, right? I think that's where we see that championship window emerge. But I could see all four guys being top 50 players by the end of next season. But as always, I want to know what you all think after I post this video. Definitely leave a comment. I want you to put top 50. If and when you leave a comment on this video, because that also helps with the algorithm of the channel, put top 50 and where you think Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham, Ausar Thompson, Jalen Duren rank by the end of next season in terms of their respective positions. Point guard, shooting guard, small forward, and center. Where do you think that they rank? All right, with that, I gotta get out of here. Holla at y'all next time. Peace.